Hey there. We're continuing our journey through the Psalms, the Tehillim, the praises in Hebrew, and we're in Psalm 78. That in Hebrew, that is Psalm Ayin Chet. Ayin is 70, and Chet is the letter numeral for 8. And this is called a maskil of Asaph. And a maskil is a cleverly put together song, a song that's put together with skill. So this is a song of Asaph. Asaph, one of the leaders of the tabernacle choir, the tabernacle worship in the days of David. It's in his style or maybe by him. This is a song that is recalling the story of Israel, and particularly it's recalling their failures, their hard-heartedness, and there's a very important reason that it's recalling it. It's so that the story can be told to the children of Israel, so that it can be told and passed on in the generation. And he's saying, listen to me, people, listen and pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm going to open my mouth, he says, in a mashal is the Hebrew word. And that word is one that is the same word as the book of Proverbs, Mushalim, mashal, but it's also the word that's used in Hebrew to talk about the stories that Jesus tells in the New Testament, the Mashale Yeshua, the stories, the parables of Jesus. And a mashal is something that means a life-giving story. It's not just a fable. It's something that actually has meaning behind it, and that can be a life guide to us, a life saying. And it's also a hida, it says in that verse. That's in verse 2. It says it's a riddle, it's a puzzle. And there's something puzzling about the story that the song is about to tell. The singer is about to sing the story of what happened. Why would people act this way is really what he's saying. But he's saying he's passing this on so that the children will know how great God is. It's all about knowing the greatness of God, because he established a testimony in Jacob. He established a covenant with Jacob, and again using that word Jacob is important, Yaakov, because Jacob is the weaker part, if you like, of Jacob. Israel is the part that God has taken and redeemed, but when it refers to Jacob, it's looking at the weakness and the frailty of Israel. And this certainly is a song that looks at the weakness and the frailty of Israel, but it's in comparing with what God has done. And he says that God has established a covenant with them, and has given them a Torah which is this, we sometimes translate it law, but it's actually more an instruction of formation. God has given his people formation so that the next generations can come to know him, that they can see their hope being in God and not forget his word and keep his commandments, that they won't be like this generation that the singer is going to talk about, who were stubborn and hard-hearted and stiff-necked, and who weren't faithful to God. They didn't keep his covenant. They refused to walk in his Torah. And even though he did, it says in verse 12, he did amazing things in the sight of their fathers in the land of Egypt. He divided the sea, and he caused them to walk through it as though it was a heap on either side. Very powerful picture here of the people going through the Red Sea on dry land. He split rocks and let water come out. He brought streams out of the rock, and yet they kept provoking him. You know that terrible story of in the Exodus and in Numbers and so on, of the people who kept grumbling and kept moaning against God. Remember the stories, and the singer here reminds us of the stories of when they were asking God for food and saying, can God actually feed us? Can he prepare us? What he says in verse 78:19, Shulchan Midbar, a table in the wilderness. Can he actually set us a table in this desert place? Is it possible? And because they weren't trusting in God, God is coming against them. They are provoking God's unhappiness, even though he has split rocks, and even though he gives them manna, that amazing bread from heaven, which actually the Hebrew calls dagan shamayim, the corn of heaven, the manna, that amazing bread that when they picked it up, they said, manna, what is this? What on earth is this? And it says, because of this, the Lord was angry with them, because they did not believe God and they didn't trust in his ability to rescue. And those two words in Hebrew had they didn't put their confidence, they didn't entrust themselves. And then the other verb here, lo batach, batach is the verb to put complete trust in, complete confidence. So they didn't rely on or trust in God, and therefore provoked his displeasure, even though it was clear that God was opening up the windows of heaven to them and pouring out what the singer calls here in verse 25, angels' food, the food of angels, the food from angelic beings. He sent them and he filled them up. And remember the story where God sends in the quail, he sends in the birds, blows them in from the sea, and the people are absolutely full of meat. But then that terrible judgment comes where there's a plague among them and they begin to drop like flies because they've not recognized, they've not been in awe of the God who provides this, or they've doubted his ability to keep them safe in the midst of the desert. And so it says towards the end of our reading today, we're just reading the first 31 verses here. He says that God's displeasure came upon them, and actually many of them fell because of their unbelief, because of their disbelief. This is clearly a warning then, the singer is saying to the next generations. Don't be faithless. Don't let go of God. He is able to do, even in the most difficult circumstances, he is able to provide that shulchan bamidbar, that table in the desert. He is able to provide water from the rock. He is able to provide far more than we can ask or think. Let's not doubt God. Let's put our trust and our confidence in him today and every day. Have a good day.